Humans have a long history of going to drastic lengths to alter their bodies. We stretch, bind, and carve ourselves to fit a perfect ideal, often at the severe cost of physical health. This impulse grew particularly intense in the late 18th century. Scientific progress was accelerating so quickly that many believed humanity could soon uncover and control the deepest mechanisms of nature. This tension between natural boundaries and human ambition defined the work of Nathaniel Hawthorne. His stories frequently examined the consequences when science, religion, and personal morality collide. Hawthorne carried a heavy sense of historical guilt. His great-great-grandfather, John Hawthorne, was a judge who sentenced accused witches to death in Salem. Hawthorne changed the spelling of his last name to distance himself from that legacy of arrogance. He used his fiction to warn of a recurring pattern. When humans try to step outside their natural limits and exert total control, the result is usually ruin. In his story, The Birthmark, a brilliant scientist named Aylmer leaves his laboratory behind to marry Georgiana, a woman of exceptional beauty and grace. But Aylmer's devotion is conditional. He becomes obsessed with a single trait, a small, red, hand-shaped birthmark on Georgiana's left cheek. Georgiana views the mark as a natural part of her identity. To Aylmer, however, it is a shocking flaw that ruins her beauty, making her appear unnatural and in need of correction. This fixation grows into a singular goal. Aylmer wants to erase the mark entirely, believing that removing this one imperfection will make Georgiana, and his life with her, perfect. By obsessively focusing on this one minor physical detail, Aylmer effectively blinds himself to his wife's actual personhood. He stops seeing a woman and starts seeing a problem to be solved. The obsession turns violent in Aylmer's dreams. He imagines himself using a knife to cut the birthmark away, only to find that the mark sinks deeper into Georgiana's body until it grips her heart. When he tells Georgiana about the dream, he describes what had happened in his sleep. This specific sequence shows that his obsession was already fully formed and rooted in his mind before he even shared it with her. Georgiana is reluctant to cause her husband further distress. Because she wants to ease his mind, she encourages him to use his scientific expertise to remove the mark. They immediately seclude themselves in Aylmer's inner laboratory. The space is so cold and oppressive that Georgiana physically shivers and eventually faints upon entering. Her desire to please her husband has led her into a dangerous environment where she is completely isolated and vulnerable to his experiments. While Aylmer works, Georgiana finds his private journals and begins reading about his past scientific endeavors. The records tell a story of constant struggle. Despite his reputation, almost every one of Aylmer's major experiments had ended in frustration and failure. When Aylmer catches her, he flies into a rage. He is driven by deep-seated insecurity and needs Georgiana to have absolute, unquestioning faith in his abilities. Aylmer confesses that he has already been secretly testing unsuccessful treatments on her. However, he claims he has finally developed a formula that cannot fail. To prove his power, he performs a demonstration. He pours a mysterious mixture onto a diseased plant, and the plant is instantly restored to health. This single, orchestrated success is enough to win her over. It allows Georgiana to ignore a documented history of failure and trust him with her life. The experiment reaches its peak when Georgiana drinks the potion. She immediately falls into a deep, heavy sleep. Aylmer watches with clinical detachment. He is focused on the red birthmark as it slowly fades from his wife's cheek. As the mark vanishes, Aylmer is filled with immense pride. He believes he has corrected nature and achieved the perfection he craved. But as the flaw disappears, Georgiana's face turns sickly pale. Her life is slipping away as the birthmark reaches its final trace. The irony is fatal. Erasing the perceived flaw required ending the life that carried it. Georgiana takes her last breath at the exact moment the mark vanishes. Aylmer is left entirely alone, crushed by the weight of his own regret. The narrative highlights a harsh reality. Real affection persists when we accept a partner's flaws, whereas demanding their removal often destroys the relationship entirely. It is a haunting reminder that chasing an impossible ideal will eventually destroy the reality of what we already have.